Now, I do want to talk a little bit about inflation.
Jason,
now, is inflation a global issue, or is it just something that the United States is experiencing?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's some global implications as well. But what I know is what's happening in our country.
Right.
You got a 40-year high inflation, and real wages aren't keeping pace with the rising cost of the goods and services people have to purchase in their daily lives. I mean, and chief among those is the price of energy. And we know, with beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the Biden policies have contributed to the spike in energy costs. Certainly what's happening in Ukraine has added to that as well. But the price was already going way up prior to Putin's invasion of Ukraine. So that energy drives so much of it, everything else, because you got to move goods around. That's just how our economy works. And if it costs more to move them and the energy used to produce them, that's a problem. And that's why we're seeing this 40-year high spike in prices, not to mention all the money that's been thrown into our economy and the spending by the Democrats.
So again, you would say that other countries like Japan, which is experiencing record inflation, the EU, which is experiencing record inflation, that, you know, the fact that China is locking down still, they're locking down, I think I read they were locking down Shanghai. So they're still locking down major cities. That, of course, is affecting global supply chains. You're blaming that on President Biden and not on the fact that this is a global issue.
No, I'm blaming the price of it. Here are the facts. The price of energy has went up dramatically. And so much of that is decisions that they made and messages they sent to the market. When you tell the market we're going to stop the pipeline, the Keystone Pipeline, you tell the market we're going to shut down ANWR, you tell the market we're not going to have as much leasing on federal lands, that sends a message. And because it is a global commodity, that's going to drive up price. That has in fact happened. When you flood the economy with cash like the Bidens have done, he just proposed the largest budget in history, $5.8 trillion budget with all kinds of largest tax increases in history. That's on top of all the money that they've spent over the last year relative to COVID, with a bunch of 300 some billion that we can't even still out there that hasn't been spent. So when you do all that, you're going to drive up the cost of goods and services. And that's exactly what's happened.
I think a couple of things jump to mind in Jason's point about the global economy. It does make sense, I think, that the United States being the world's #1 economy, if we are experiencing rampant inflation, the interconnected nature of the planet means that every other country is going to feel that too. So when it comes to the American dollar, especially when we are the global reserve currency, whatever policies happen right here in Washington, that will have far-reaching impact globally on other countries' inflationary experiences.
So the #2 economy
is
that
China.
has 2 billion people, that probably has an effect as well.
Yeah, no question. This is a multivariate thing. But look at what Larry Summers has been saying, former Obama Treasury official. He's been out saying this has been the government spending in concert with the Fed's easy money has made this massive inflation spike. And so what I want to ask you, Congressman Jordan, is about kind of the thinking, the ideological thinking among Republicans and kind of how this has affected them. Because remember, during the Trump era, there was some debate among the populists and the national conservatives about kind of increasing government spending to direct it towards programs that conservatives cared about, right? And so even, Mitt Romney at one point, although I wouldn't really call him a nationalist or populist, but he did come along with a child tax credit proposal, if you recall. And it was about spending more money, basically getting more federal money out the door to American families to help encourage the growth of American families. Do you think there's still energy for that? Or do you think some Republicans are beginning to reconsider those flirtations in light of the fact that it looks like the government spending played a massive role in inflation?
Yeah, I mean, look, the government spending, it's a problem just in and of itself. We got a $30 trillion debt. The Fed's talking about moving interest rates up a little bit, a quarter of a point, maybe even more.
Yeah.
Each full point you move up the interest rate results in $300 billion more in debt service, just to service that huge debt.
Yes.
That's a lot of money. So there's concern there too, just in general with this huge debt. So I'm always nervous about more government spending. I think we have to have good tax policy that lets hardworking people keep their money, not give it to government where it's going to get wasted and spent. We just saw the story, I think it was NBC story, that $250 billion they can't find was either lost or stolen of all the COVID money thrown out there. And then
Right.
there's 300 billion unspent. Biden wants 22 billion more, and he just proposed a $5.8 trillion budget with the largest tax increases in American history. That is going to make matters worse. And Larry Summers will be, saying the same thing he's saying now, only it'll be worse. So yeah, I'm very nervous about that. We need good, sound tax policy that lets moms and dads and families and business owners keep more of their money to replow back into their family and their community and their business. That's just good basic sense.